as we move through your list of teams we think are good, but we're not entirely sure yet, here's an interesting one. Florida State. Probably the biggest win of any team on this list with what they did to Alabama in week 1. Now, we don't entirely know what Alabama is. We'll have a much better idea after they play Georgia this week. But I think we have a pretty good idea with Florida State because it didn't seem fluky even after that. They play, teams they should be blowing out, but they really are blowing them out and making it look like, kind of name your score blowouts. This is so much smoother than last year. And it really just makes last year even more confusing. But I kind of wonder, Ari, like we talked about this last year, sometimes maybe a group of people just don't work well together. And we may be seeing that with Clemson this year. And maybe that was just it. Maybe it was that particular group of people just didn't work. But this particular group of people that Mike Norvell has assembled in Tallahassee this year seems to be working really well.
Yeah, well, I also hate to pile on individual players. But, I think it's a fair assessment that Florida State's quarterback situation did not work. It was a non-functional situation a year ago. And I wonder how much that permeates the rest of the roster. When things feel hard, when you don't have confidence in your offense to move up and down the field, even against overmatched opponents, I think that does a lot to kind of quell any gelling or, momentum a program could probably have, Andy. And I think that was part of it. And I think, going into this offseason, because we didn't know what Florida State was going to be, I think that, my viewpoint was 8-4 is their ceiling. And if they reach it, then they're on the right track. And now it feels like if they go 8-4, that would be a pretty big disappointment. Now, a lot of the misfires last year at the quarterback position, I think maybe put Tommy Castellanos in an unfair situation, because when you look at the circumstances of the way that things went for him at the end of his BC era, the fact that he came in the offseason as an undersized player, you could have made a lot of parallels between, hey, we're going to get another quarterback that at times in his career at another place showed flashes, but there are red flags, and it was easier to write off Florida State's attempt at fixing the quarterback position with the way that they went about doing it. And then he comes out and says all the interesting, fun things about Alabama in the offseason and then backs that shit up, dude. He backed it up.
Yeah.
And the fact that he backed it up, you want to talk about pieces working together, what galvanizes a locker room or a group of people of hearing your young or your new quarterback poke the bear, the biggest bear in college football, and then slay that bear. I take a lot of credence in that. Whether or not Florida State is a team that can go on to win games in the playoff, I still think remains to be seen. But there isn't a single game on their ACC schedule that scares me. Now, the rest of their roster, I think.
Miami does, but you don't even have to beat Miami.
Miami does. Yeah. I said doesn't scare me. Miami should scare you. There are certain games that should scare you. There aren't any games on their schedule that I think that they cannot win. There's no way that I can view a Florida
And Miami might be the only one they're not favored in the rest of the way. One more thing about the reclamation situation and Tommy Castellanos, the other piece of that is Gus Malzahn, because we had given up on Gus Malzahn, the play caller, because Gus Malzahn, the head coach at UCF, the offense just really didn't work. And so when he became the offensive coordinator at Florida State, we were like, oh, yeah, he did a UCF a favor. They didn't have to fire him. But we didn't really consider the possibility that as just the OC, with only that to worry about, that he goes back to being what he was as an OC, which was an ingenious OC.
Yeah. And they also have pieces on their roster that were once highly rated prospects that weren't overly productive at their previous stops who are doing really well. And I think that inspires confidence. I think the one that stands out to everybody, of course, is obviously tight end Deuce Robinson. Now he only had one catch against Kent State. I don't know how much you read into that, but also the halfback for Oklahoma, Gavin Sawchuk, averaging 8.8 yards a carry against Kent State, 11 carries for 97 yards, 2 touchdowns. They have guys on their team that are familiar faces, familiar names. And you did bring this up on the preview show on Monday, Andy, of like, hey, just because somebody wasn't producing at a previous place doesn't mean that a new change of scenery, a new scheme, a new system, a new coach even can get out, better results and more production out of those players than they got at previous stops. So, I don't know that this is like a victory lap that, Florida State is, a ready-made ACC championship team level this year. I think we're going to find out on Friday night. That might sound crazy, but Friday night is a finicky line on the road, and it's a weeknight game at Virginia. And it scares the crap out of me. And as I booked my flight to Florida State this morning, I sure as hell hope that that game is between undefeated Florida State and undefeated Miami.
I want to tell you about Modelo. Grab yourself a Modelo and stay game day ready all season long. We talk about the full-time fans. We've been handing out Modelos, ceremonial Modelos to full-time fans all season. We're going to keep doing that throughout the year. When I get a chance to sit down and watch a little college football and I'm not working, which is rare, but when I get a chance, I crack a Modelo. Just an amazing, amazing, amazing beer. So grab yourself a Modelo, stay game day ready all season long. You're a full-time fan. You've earned it. You have earned that reward for rooting through what you've had to root through at a lot of these places. We're about to talk about Florida State. Florida State fans, full-time fans, because those guys suffered through last season. Now they're enjoying it. The question is, how much are they going to get to enjoy it? And we're going to talk about that right now. But reward yourself with Modelo for what you've done already, and then get ready for the cheering you're going to do. So stay game day ready all season long with Modelo.
But I feel like I am on high alert for, this is an ACC contender, and we're going to find out a hell of a lot as soon as, 3 days from now. And I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. I think the way they beat Alabama tempers a little bit of this fear, because I think if they were just sitting there at undefeated and they hadn't really played anybody yet, but they looked great like they have against the lesser lights on their schedule, if they're just sitting there at 3-0, you'd go, well, I don't know anything. I need to see them beat Virginia Tech. But the way they beat Alabama, that's very repeatable. Like a team that can do that to the level of talent that Alabama has can do that to anybody. And I look at this schedule now, and obviously the Miami game is going to be tough. But Pittsburgh, Stanford, Wake Forest, even Clemson, they're going to be favored. Virginia Tech, NC State, they're going to be favored. God only knows what Florida will be by the time Florida State has to go to Gainesville. Yeah. And so they're going to be favored in that too. This is a team that their it's interesting because their expectations probably rose immediately once they beat Alabama, but they should feel very realistic about having high expectations for this group right now.
Yeah. And you want Tommy Castellanos to continue to play well. Mm-hmm. You want those players to produce. You want Deuce Robinson to keep catching balls. And the thing that I will say more than anything, and, this is a commentary that I've had against, Alabama in that opener and certainly for Florida State, there is a look about teams, a passionate look. Like Florida State plays angry, Andy. They play like they are so tired and still tired.
The clips of their backs lead blocking on Alabama linebackers and just knocking them on their butts.
It's personal for them.
Yeah. And the fact is, not everybody can do that. Not every team can do that. The fact that they did suggests they can do it again. And, in the picks segment, I picked Florida State to cover this 7. You picked Virginia to cover it. But we're going to find out a lot about the Seminoles on Friday night.
Yeah, cannot wait to watch it. And again, if we can get a vintage Florida State, Miami undefeated situation going, into week 6, like, God, please.
Oh, and that's, listen, no matter what happens in Charlottesville on Friday night, that's going to be the biggest game of week 6, but it's going to be titanic. It's going to feel like the 90s again with Florida State and Miami.
I've never been to Tallahassee before. I've never been to the city. So I can't imagine being indoctrinated.
You're going to like Doak Campbell when Florida State's good, because when Doak Campbell is rocking. It is one of the coolest stadiums in America. You got the marching Chiefs blasting out from the top of the end zone. It is an intimidating place for the visiting team to play when they're really good. And right now, they look really good. So we will find out on Friday night a little more about the Seminoles. Don't know if we'll find everything out, but we're really only going to need a few more days after that before we know exactly what kind of team we're dealing with and whether this is a real playoff contender or not.